Hello, donut makers. Daniel here. Thank you so much for your interest in the leveling system that I've created for, well, currently right now, the Lil'Orbits machine, but we are going to do our investigation on some Bell Shaw machines and some other name brand machines that are out there for making donuts. But specifically Lil'Orbits right now, and this leveling system, well, it's not only a leveling system, it's also a constraint system. So it actually hold your machine down. You strap it down, you use a bungee, and it's not going anywhere during travel. So in this video, I just want to go over what this is, what it does, and how, most importantly, how it's installed. So when you get your order, it'll be wrapped something like this. You'll have all the leveling block uh, pieces here, and they're each individually wrapped just to kind of keep everything together. So they're kind of pre-assembled, so to speak, right out of the box. However, we will need to disassemble them in order to install them. So we'll go over that right now. In the box, you have all your leveling blocks. You also have a little packet here that has your instructions, which we'll go through. This square here is a drilling template that shows you where to drill your holes. And then lastly, this red tube here is a thread locker that we'll be using on some of the screws that we will need to install. So let's get right into it. Okay, first things first here, we are going to open up our little packet that has all the instructions and these other little things in there, and we are going to walk through how we put this thing together. So I've laid it out into 6 pretty simple steps here, but to some people it may not be as simple, to others it may be very simple. I just wanted to cover it all so that there's no questions. And of course you can always ask me questions, but it's pretty straightforward once you kind of understand the concept. On the back here, I have a couple of different diagrams that show the sizes of the different components. Some of these components, for example, the 1032 screws here, if your table is a little thicker than normal, or thicker than what these screws can handle, you can go to the hardware store and get some 1032s that are longer. Some of this stuff I make at the machine shop, so you won't be able to go pick that up. And some of them are custom made for me as well. So, but some of the other little stuff you can tweak as needed at your local hardware store. Okay, so step one, as I showed a second ago, everything comes pre-packaged, and this one's out of the package, and we are going to disassemble. So first things first, we're going to loosen the nut. This nut here is actually just for kind of tightening and gripping so that this can't spin once you get it set. Once you level your machine, you can just, I like to grab it with my palm down here with the big part of it, and then uh, pinch the nut here and twist everything together at the same time, and that firms it up. And it's not going to go anywhere, even if it is, even if you forgot to tighten that and you just adjusted it. The weight of the machine, as well as the fact that it's going to be sitting into this cup, it's not going anywhere. But this is just for some extra safety here. So we're going to take this all apart. You unscrew this. You're going to need to remove the footbed straight out of the packaging. It's just a Phillips screwdriver. Then we have these 4 1032s that we talked a little bit about earlier, and we're just going to loosen these all up and take them out of the block. I guess when you're disassembling this, you can see how it all will go back together. So the first thing that goes on the screw during reassembly is going to be that split or locking washer, and then your flat washer goes underneath it, so it's kind of sandwiched like that. and that's how it will reassemble. Go ahead and knock that out with all four, and we'll meet you back here in a second, and we will start walking through the directions. All right, now that we've disassembled everything straight out of the package, let's go ahead and start reading through step one and start knocking this out. Set all the blocks on the surface. I'm going to paraphrase this, but basically set all your blocks, and now that they're kind of, I call it naked and disassembled, set all your blocks on the surface, and you're going to have four. I only have one here, but you're going to have four or five. You're going to put all the blocks on the table. Then you're going to take your machine, your actual donut machine, and you're going to set it in the blocks. So each one of these will hold the foot. So before these, and put your machine there. And now at this point, we're looking to position the machine in a way that you would normally have it, basically where you want it to live permanently. I say permanently, but theoretically you can always drill new holes and move these around as necessary. But at this point, set your machine in the blocks and position it on your table where you want it to live. Now keep in mind the hopper, it's gonna swing and needs to swing back and forth, so don't put it too close up against the wall. Remember that your donut tray is going to need to be positioned at the end. If you've already been operating your donut machine for a long time, you know exactly where you like to put it. If you're new at this, just a couple little things to look for. You don't want to put it up against the wall. You want to make sure there's room enough for the donut pan at the end where it flips out the donuts. You want to make sure that there's enough room there, and just look at any other obstacles that might be in the way once this is basically permanently fixed to the table. So once you get it all squared away and put it in a position where you want it, now we're going to grab some sort of marking device. I'm using a red marker here just because it's easy to see on camera. And I'm actually going to use this second piece. But once we have the leveler put exactly where we want it, and we have the machine sitting in the levelers and everything is square, you want to make sure you rotate this to make sure it looks flat with the machine, to make sure it looks square and exactly how you want it to look sitting on the table. The reality is these can be rotated any which direction you want, all 360 degrees, but it does look nice if this side of the part is flush with the machine. But you can do whatever you want to do. So at this point, I'm also going to point out that these holes, this through hole here is actually for the tie down portion. So if you wanted to use this with a bungee cord, and I'll be including bungee cords in this kit. I don't have them today, but you can wrap your bungee cord the end through here, and it's going to go across over the machine, and then it'll go on the other side and hook into the other one. So all that to say, make sure you position this tie down point, if you plan on using it, in a way that is accessible. You don't want to tuck it under the machine. So if I had it over here like this and the machine was sitting on top, it would be it's still usable, I suppose, but it would be not as easy to use because it would be tucked up under the machine. I'm going to rotate it so that it's out or toward me, and then toward the middle of the machine. So if this is the right side of the machine and this is the left side when it's up on the table, I'm going to position this to the inside of the machine and outward towards me. But you can position it however you want. And the good news is, since this is all symmetrical, even if you did it the wrong way, at the end you can unscrew everything, rotate it where you need it, and put it all back together. So our machine is up. Our machine is exactly where we want it. We've kind of rotated these, twisted these to make sure that they're flat, parallel with all the sides that we want it. We have it exactly where we want it. Now we're going to take our marker and we're going to reach up under the machine. There's going to be lots of clearance here, so don't worry about that. Obviously, I don't have a machine, but we'll pretend the machine is right here. And I'm just basically gonna draw a square here. So I'm just gonna trace it around here, I'm going to make myself a nice little square. So while you're doing that for all four, I'm going to stop here and get ready for the next step. All right, now that you have all four marked, we're going to remove the machine and we're going to remove the blocks from the table. Okay, and what we're left with is an obvious square. Okay, that square is going to be used with this drilling template that's included in order to make sure we get all these holes drilled appropriately and in the right position. So now that you have all your squares on your table, the next step is to trim this. I'm going to take some scissors here and cut along the line, and we're just going to cut out this square. Give me 1 second, I'll be right back. Okay, we've got our square cut down to size. It is ready to go. It should look just like this. All I did was cut right along the black lines that were printed on the card here. And this square is going to fit beautifully right in the red line that I drew. Okay, you can see it's a perfect fit. So at this point, we are going to mark to drill the holes. But I want to take this opportunity here to make sure everybody knows before you drill any holes, you need to check under the table. And there are a couple different obstacles I've run into with the different tables that I've owned. Uh, Sometimes there's a channel that goes across the stainless steel underneath that I guess it's just a support channel for the tabletop. But if you're using like a Corian counter or you're using something something completely different, you may have some obstacles, you may have a drawer, you may have something in the way underneath. So before we drill any holes, we're going to look underneath and make sure that the holes that we will drill, which are these 5, are not going to be in the way of anything else. Now, I will say with some of the stainless steel tables, that channel that I was talking about on the underside of the tabletop, it's just thin sheet metal. And I've actually drilled right through that sheet metal before, and it doesn't really interfere with anything. You can kind of even remove that sheet metal if you're good with metalworking. You can actually remove just a chunk of that bar underneath. It's just a real thin gauged sheet metal. But make sure before you drill any holes that you are clear and good to go. Okay, so I'm going to assume that we're clear, good to go. After you check that, we're going to start marking these. So we put our square in the drawn square that we made, and we're going to make 5 marks. Now, there are some holes that I've punched in this template already, so you can just easily mark it like this, or you can take like a punch, and you can, if you have a stainless steel top and you're not using a marker, you can take a punch and you can tap it with a hammer and make your marks. But however you do it, you need to make marks here on the 5 different points. So it should look just like this. Go ahead and do that to all 4 or 5 of your legs, and we'll be right back. Okay, now we've marked our holes. We've used our template on all the holes. And on the template, you'll notice that there's some numbers. These 4 outside holes are going to be 1/4 inch around, okay? And the inside hole is going to be 3/4 inch. And there are lots of ways to drill holes. I think my favorite way is to use a bit that looks like this. This is called a step down bit. Some people call it a Christmas tree bit, but basically each one of these ribs is a different size hole. So I can just say, okay, well, I know my first, 3rd step here is 1/4 inch, and I know my 5th or 6th step here is 3/4 of an inch. So the way I'm going to do it is drill just like that, boom, 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 and hit the sizes that I need to. You can also buy 2 separate bits, have a 1/4 inch bit and have a 3/4 inch bit. That's totally fine as well. Like I said, everybody has a different tabletop. Some people have stainless steel, some people have wood, some people, whatever. It doesn't matter, but find the appropriate tool that works best for your situation, and cut your 1/4 inch, all the outside 4, and then 3/4 inch on the center one. So I'll do that and we'll be right back. All right. I hope you had a successful hole cutting experience just like I did here. Of course, this material here is actually an aluminum clad, so it's not quite exactly like a normal tabletop, but it's something that was close representation for you. So your hole should look like this. Okay, we have our 1/4 inch on the outside, we have our 3/4 in the middle, and obviously this is shaped exactly like this, so we know we did it right. Now if I hold my block underneath, you can see all my holes line up. Okay, if your drill walked a little bit, that's okay. The holes are a little oversized compared to the actual screws that go in there, and that allows you, just in case your drill walked a little bit, or you need to tweak it a little bit, or you're a little off center a little bit, not a big deal. Obviously, there's a ton of room in the middle hole, and the smaller holes, there's ample room to be able to adjust, as you see, just like that. So I believe the next step here is to set your blocks on there, take a look underneath, make sure everything lines up, which I just did, I showed you, and we are set to go. So at this point, you're going to put your leveling blocks back down against all the squares. If you want to remove the square at this point, if you've drawn on your table, now's a good time to clean that off. We're going to set these where they need to be, and we're going to start reassembling everything. So the reassembly is going to be very simple. It's exactly the same way that we did it on the disassembly. As I mentioned before, the locking washer goes on first, then the big flat washer goes on, and then we start assembling. Really, really easy. So I'm going to put this together here, and then I will be right back. Okay, so in the instructions, I've actually noted in there that at this point, I wouldn't necessarily tighten these all the way down. I just finger tightened them all the way, because what's going to happen is when you set your machine in, you're going to need to make sure these are just perfectly the way you originally intended them. So you want to give yourself a little bit of wiggle room here so that you can, shift it one way or another, make sure it's right on the lines, or make sure it's right exactly where you wanted it to go. See how it can be cockeyed a little bit. So once you get all those put back in loosely like that, go ahead and set your machine back in here, and then you can give these a little twist, make sure they're lined up exactly where you originally wanted them to line up, and then you'll reach back under the machine and you'll tighten them down. Okay. Now, I didn't add the red thread locker on this demonstration, but this red thread locker, as you see, it's written in the instructions. This red thread locker actually goes on the threaded end of all of these little screws here. It's just one little drop, and that's going to basically keep these from vibrating out over time or backing themselves out for one reason or another. It's not a permanent, it doesn't weld them in there or anything, but it does make it a lot more difficult to remove the screws. Even if you tried it with a screwdriver, it'll still come out, but it'll be a lot more rigid and tight in there. So once you've got this all aligned, twisted, and firmed up here, we're going to take our adjustment knob and make sure that this nut is already on. You didn't really need to take it off during disassembly, but if you did, make sure it's back on there. And we're going to thread this in. Now remember, this is the bottom of the table. I just happen to have it flipped over here for demonstrations. But we're going to start screwing this in. Let me flip this over here so you can see the thread coming through. And we're gonna go up so that it's just above the top of the block here. And the only reason I'm doing that is so that we can easily assemble the footbed on the end. So just like with those other little screws down there at the bottom, we're going to take a little bit of this red thread lock and just drip, like one drip on those threads right there at the end. And once that's on there, this just goes through the cup, or we call it the footbed, and right into the threaded hole that's on the adjustment knob. And real simply, sorry, my hand is in the way, we're going to just tighten this up. And you can give it a good wrench down. I didn't do that on this one. It's just a demo here. But basically, at this point, we are ready to go. And so as you see, I'm unscrewing from underneath. The leveling system is going down. And when I get to the very bottom, it stops. And also your machine, the base of your machine, I should say the bottom flat stainless steel actually machine, is going to be resting on the surface of this block. So it is absolutely supported 100% when this is all the way down. And once you start screwing this in, that'll start raising it. And it's actually kind of neat to see the edge of the machine start to just lift up. So that's how the entire operation really works. You want to, when adjusting your machine, I've learned that you want to use two uh, uh, levelers kind of at the same time. You don't have to, but that's what I've learned is the easiest. For example, if this were the end of the machine where the donuts come out, I would, and I needed to raise it or lower it, I would usually typically either use two hands and reach under there and turn them both at the same time, or loosen them at the same time, or I would do like, I would count how many hand twists I do, like 4 hand twists, and then reach over and do 4 hand twists, and that should get you pretty close. But I'll let you discover how adjusting works best for you. But as far as the demo goes, that's the install. That's the finished product. That's what it looks like. It's not going to move from here. This is basically where it's going to live for the rest of its life or until you get a new tabletop. Worst case scenario, if you need to move this, no big deal. It will leave holes in the top of your counter, but if you needed to shift this over here, or you got a bigger machine, or whatever, you just unscrew everything and kind of redo the installation in a different place. So thank you so much for purchasing or at least just showing interest. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me, and I'm happy to walk you through this all over again. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.